So, as you can see, if you don't know much about Mooney, Mooney was one of the first people who was an ethnographer who went to record Eastern Cherokee stories, and many of the stories that you heard from Trent when they're talking about the war and before removal happened for the Cherokees in 1838. So what is very clear is that oral tradition at least among the Cherokee people, has continued to happen, because in 2004 you still hear about the little people and how they take a child, and if the child is removed from their care, that child dies. So all of that span of time, the story basically remains the same. You know, kind of don't mess with the spirits because they'll mess back with you. And once you've been touched by a spirit, you can never return to your regular life. And that, I think, is true pretty much across the board. If you're Catholic and you're touched by a saint, you're never quite the same again. So just kind of wanted to have even more context for you for the short little story that was in Everyday. So I'd like to move on now to Selu, Seeking for Mother's Wisdom. Marilou Awiakta is Eastern Band Cherokee, and this book was published in '96, and I was able to have a really nice conversation with her in '97. She's a poet as well as a writer. She was an activist. I'm sure she probably still is. And I chose a couple of poems and a couple of short pieces from her. And as you can see, this is a well-worn book, so obviously one of my favorites. And this is actually one of my favorite poems. If the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. If the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, why does the mother pace, row on row of white crosses, seeking the one that stakes her son motionless in his lidded box? If the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, why do mother and daughter leave the courtroom with their freed rapist bowing their heads against his gleeful stare? If the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, why does the mother nurse a famished baby, pressing her shriveled nipple into a tiny mouth too weak to take hold? If the hand wants the hand that rocks the cradle to rule, why does it slam its counsel door on the mother's wrist, watching as she strains her other hand towards a cradle that rocks slower, slower, slower? Memo to NASA. I see your mocked up plans. Strip mine the moon, hang guns on the stars. You tramp into space with a steady two-beat. Conquer, 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 conquer. Break march, brothers. You shake the bridge of the sky. Cherokee Woman on the Moon. The grandfathers have said, let no one know the path you have walked. Brother Moon, I draw the flagstaff from your breast. With an eagle feather I brush away, first the man's step, then my own. The Coming of Little Deer. From the heart of the mountain he comes, with his head held high in the wind. Like the spirit of light he comes, the small white chief of the deer. When one of his own is slain, he instantly draws near, and finding clotted blood on the leaves, he bends low over the stain. Have you heard? Has the hunter prayed words of pardon for the life you gave for his own? If the answer be no, then little deer goes, invisible, fleet as the wind, and tracks the blood to the hunter's home, where he swiftly pains and cripples his bones so he can never hunt again. From the heart of the mountain he comes, with his head held high in the wind. Like the spirit of light he comes, the small white chief of the deer. Once in a lifetime he may appear to one whose spirit is deep, and a master's arrow may bring him down, so the hunter can take his horn, to keep as a charm for the chase, a talisman reverently borne, for reverence alone sustains its power and forestalls wrath and pain. But the hunter must be swift of hand, for the arrow hardly strikes his throat. Then little deer leaps from his ancient path that slopes upward into the mist. From the heart of the mountain he comes, with his head held high in the wind. Like the spirit of light he goes, the small white chief of the deer. This is from an essay that she wrote, Daydreaming Primal Space, Cherokee Aesthetics as Habits of Being. Look at everything 3 times, a Cherokee elder once told me, once with the right eye, once with the left eye, and once from the corner of the eyes to see the spirit of what you're looking at. Out of fear and acquisitiveness, those who came to conquer responded. This new land needs to be squared up, they said. Squared, boxed, labeled, brought under control. These primitive webs are in the way. We'll tear them down and stamp out the spinners. And they did. Or so it seems. The language is intimate, for in primal mind there is no psychic distance between the singer and the song. Listeners share the web of context and experience. Also, instead of following the conventional Western lineal progression, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and reasoning from the outside in, this begins with the center and moves in a widening spiral to the conclusion, developing the thought from the inside out. This is the traditional American Indian mode that originated in primal space, where everything is connected. The longer we stay in primal space, the more jarring it is to return to what many American Indians call the other world, a world not of poetry, but of lists. Squared, the other world. Time squared, to the clock. Life squared, to television, credit card, truck, car, train, jet, to cubicles piled in high, rude rectangles. Fill in the square. Your name, your address, your telephone number, your sex, your age, your race, your occupation. Stay inside the lines. Keep to time slots. Work, play, eat, sleep, love. Box them, label them, stack them up. Complete. Claw to the top of the pyramid. Compute, compute, compute. No, you can't have your veterans' benefits. The computer shows you're dead. Get heresy under control. The creation is clear-cut. God is God. Nature is the other. Choose your side. Women, square your shoulders. Starve your body straight. Curves are out. Men, square your hearts. Produce, produce. Feelings don't raise the gross national product. The shuttle seals are at risk. Launch it. 7 people smeared across the sky translate to the TV monitor. Obviously, we have a major malfunction. Obviously.